How's it going, y'all? It's Roanoke Gaming, back with some more lore on Dead Space. Who doesn't like an unkillable enemy? No one? Well, too bad, because today we're going to cover the cheapest of cheap shots, the Hunter from Dead Space 1. What makes this enemy so tough? Well, probably the inability of Isaac's weapons to put it down permanently, followed by a quick delimbing and deheading of you due to the fact that you can't actually stop it. So let's dive into the lore and morphology of Dead Space lore, the Hunter. Let's start from the beginning as to why this monstrosity even exists. Upon crew members of the Ishimura's untimely demise due to the marker signal, it is stated that not everyone turned at once. The marker turned those that had essentially like weak minds before moving on to the stronger, more intelligent minds. It's also been stated that, I believe it was Dead Space 2, that where a less intelligent person will hear like random noise and sound that drives them crazy and see, I believe also like symbols and letters, intelligent people will hear equations and actually can put the letters and numbers together to build the marker. So just a little bit of fun fact there for you. Anywho, so this was the process, so to speak. As time passed, the disease jumped from janitors, security personnel, and low-level crew members to doctors, captains, and high-ranking officers. When it began to affect the minds of the more intelligent, a man named Dr. Mercer began to satiate his scientific curiosity in horrible and terrible ways for the crew members. His idea was to create the perfect being. It should be noted that he was also a unitologist, so this may have had a hand in his plan as well. And being a unitologist, he believed that death was the beginning, but while he was still alive, he wanted to create a stronger and better necromorph. It may just be my opinion on this one, but it sounds a lot like the marker at work, utilizing the more intelligent to make better necromorphs, essentially. Anyhow, Dr. Mercer began abducting crew members and purposefully killing them and letting them turn into necromorphs. He ended up salvaging some of the necrotic tissue from one of his victims and set the stage for the nigh-invincible creations. He captured a crew member named Brant Harris, or at least it's really believed to be Brant Harris, and implanted the necrotic tissue directly into his cranium, and let's just say he wasn't really a willing host for this. Obviously, this would have caused immediate hemorrhaging of the brain, which would lead to a quick end of the person, but the beginning of the monster was to come. Quickly, the tissue spreads over the newly deceased body and began turning it into a necromorph, but this was no ordinary transformation because this is no ordinary necromorph. It would come to be referred to as the Hunter. So now we come to everyone's favorite portion, the morphology. A hunter is going to be physically resembling a slasher necromorph, but is going to be much larger than them. Not only will they be larger, but they're going to have much more apparent muscle as well. Two spiked arms jut out from the shoulder blades of the hunter. The original arms of the human form have been bound and fused to the torso, creating a much larger and bulkier looking chest. And when I say fused, I mean like really fused and bound inside of the flesh. You can see the outline of the arms, but the hunter's skin has overtaken them completely, much like a straitjacket. This necromorph is also going to stand taller than your average slasher, which means it's also going to stand taller than you, at about 7 feet, I put it. This suggests that the bones grew quickly post-mortem, maybe to give the hunter a hunting advantage and longer reach. Arguably the worst part about the hunter is the fact that it can regenerate anything it loses. Its bulky torso means you can't tear it apart with your plasma cutter, and if you dismember the arms, legs, or head, it will literally just grow them back. This may have something to do with the fact that the necrotic tissue infected living tissue. So let's just go on a little side tangent here. When a person dies, or an animal in general, the fact is that your cells are still living, which has always been interesting because you're technically alive. I mean, your cells are dying at an alarming rate, starting from the end and working its way out, I believe. But technically, your eukaryotic cells are still functional. They're still undergoing mitosis. They're still absorbing nutrients, secreting waste. You're still running. The only thing that's really gone is your brain. So when this dead tissue, or at least the dead necromorph tissue, got into your brain, it started infecting your living cells, even though you were technically no longer alive. So I believe that's why it was able to do that, but that's just one of my hypotheses. It could be wrong. But anyways, to continue on, the fact is that this transformation seems to have sent your cells' mitotic abilities into overdrive. And the reason is, if you shoot a slasher, the cells are dead, and they are just reanimated cells. But with a hunter, the cells are living, or somewhere in between living and dead, so they are still able to function and can apparently be willed to divide quite quickly and all at once. This may also explain why the hunter can stop stalk you, as perhaps some of its human hunting instincts have survived and been pushed to the forefront. Although, also just on another side note, I got a few of these, there exists something in the brain called the lizard brain, which is the more baser part of your brain, right? So our cerebrum is, where we do most of our thinking, controls most of our processes. But when you get down to like the medulla, the pons, and more of the interior of the brain, you start running into what they do call the lizard brain. And that's what keeps you alive. So I'm thinking that when Dr. Mercer was stabbing people in the head, what was actually happening is it was killing the human you, but potentially still keeping the lizard part of you alive. That's just my idea. I don't know if that's canon or not, but it seems to be the case. Now, two possibilities exist as to why these cells are undergoing the mitosis necessary to create limbs, heads, legs, doesn't matter. Your body doesn't really hold on to that specific information, so if you lose an arm, it doesn't grow back, right? The skin just grows over and that's the end of it. But this would either indicate that the cells themselves located around the joints that would be, the shoulders or the pelvis region, that it's basically going to be the same type of cell type that is able to regenerate the limbs once more, rather than say, if you shoot it off, it goes away. My second kind of thinking of this is that the ability to reproduce these limbs doesn't actually come from the cells themselves, but is actually further in the torso of the hunter, and I will go into an explanation of why that might be a possibility here in a few minutes. But to give some information on it being the same cell, basically this would mean that if it is the same cell and it's all the same cell, there are no specialized cells, so they can regrow at will, but this would also mean that the DNA would need to be changed at that level. So no specialized cells exist in the creature anymore, but like I said, that's just a hypothesis I have, and maybe that's why some of the human instincts were preserved as well. But back on track, with this regeneration, it makes things exceedingly difficult when trying to put the hunter down. The only way to really kill it is complete and utter incineration, which can be difficult with a 7-foot monster that is chasing you. The head of the hunter has also been changed. The lower jaw is nowhere to be found, as it was apparently lost at some point, and in its place hang a couple of fleshy veins. The eyes glow dimly, which has never really been explained as to why there's intracranial light, but perhaps it has something to do with the fact that the marker gives off energy, and this energy creates light within the eye sockets, where the eyes used to sit. Oh, and don't think the lack of eyes holds that thing back. It can see you just fine and can pretty much locate you no matter where you are. The thick muscular neck is set at a 45-degree angle. This provides it with a forward-looking face, but it can also see down to spot any humans, enemies, whatever, trying to go below its line of sight. The toes have begun to form into like a large claw-like protrusion, which indicates that everything on it is used for attacking. The arms themselves are very muscular and are able to lift a full-grown man. One swing of these arms can slice off both of your legs, armor or not, so best not get close. The pelvis has been pushed to the back a little and can be seen from behind the hunter. The spine and the rib cage appear to have been enlarged, giving it a much larger torso size, and it can be assumed, since they're larger, much more armor on his chest as well, which kind of lends credence to my idea that essentially that's where the regeneration comes from. It's trying to protect the chest. So maybe that's, how it's able to keep doing what it's doing. So anyways, there is no discernible skin left over from the mutation, but it is covered in a pinkish material that may either be leftover muscle or what's left of the skin. It's hard to tell considering no one really wants to get that close. The hunter will emit a deep growl when locating prey, or specifically you. This growl is much deeper and throaty than what the slasher emits. This suggests that, like the rest of it, is, larger, larger torso, thicker neck. The vocal cord size may have been increased to create more bass emitting from the throat of the creature. One drawback that appears in the hunter is that it still must operate within the laws of nature. It is increased in size and muscle mass, so that means it takes much more time and is slower than your typical slasher, and a human for that matter. As long as you keep your distance, you should be able to outmaneuver the hunter. However, get too close and you can say goodbye to anything that is attached to your torso or abdomen. If a hunter does manage to catch you, it will impale Isaac multiple times before slicing off his legs and then his arms before finally cutting your head off. Ow. As stated, there is only one way to totally kill the hunter. It needs to be vaporized and all cells destroyed. Otherwise, just like an unfunny but still just as lethal version of Deadpool, it'll grow everything given enough time. A perfect way to do this is to, lure it behind a ship's engines and blast it until there's nothing left. However, good luck finding one of those laying around. So there you have it, the lore and morphology of the hunter. What is your guys' favorite necromorph? I'd like to know in the comments. Also, let me run something by you guys. How do you feel about a re-uploaded and improved version of my first videos? The Slasher, the Leaper, the Stalker, and the Puker. I was looking at them the other day, and I feel like I haven't really done them justice in research and videoing, so that might be something I want to go back, but only if you guys really want to see it. If there's something you guys would like to see, please do not hesitate to comment on the video, and also give it a like and subscribe if you're new. And if you'd like to know anytime I upload, press that Nostradamus bell, and we will be good to go. Alright guys, that's it for me, so I will catch y'all in the next one.